Yeah, this is actually my first Zoom I've done in a while. I was doing like social hour on Zoom with my friends for a few months, and now we've all just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
stopped.
same. Same.
Take a break
Like
from.
the other reason I refused to do like summer classes, even though I was like had nothing to
Mhm.
do for a while, was I cannot stare at Zoom anymore. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so for those
Right.
who are here, welcome to our fourth, yeah, I think fourth day of YA week. And I'm here with author of The Best Laid Plans, Cameron Lund. And it's one of my very favorite books this year. I feel like I've said that a lot this week, but know that it's an exclusive list. But I love this book so much, and I'm so glad that we get to share with the community and to ask Cam more questions about this book. So she's going to do a little bit of a reading, I think, too. But I think to start, I'll just ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and give a quick pitch for The Best Laid Plans for those who haven't read it.
Sure. So my name is Cameron Lund, and I live in San Francisco. Currently still quarantining over here. But so The Best Laid Plans is, oh, that never works with the background. The Best Laid Plans is a book about Keely Collins, who is a senior in high school, and she is feeling left behind a lot of her friends. She is the last virgin in her friend group, and she meets this older college guy that they all refer to as James Dean, and ends up kind of starting a thing with him and being a little bit insecure. So she asks her best guy friend, Andrew, to sleep with her and help her practice so that she can not be a virgin when she hooks up with James Dean. It's kind of the quick pitch.
Yeah, it's so much fun. But also has its serious moments. So before we do a reading, I think we do like a few like icebreakers that have to do with
Sure.
rom-coms. So what are some of your favorite rom-coms? Books, movies, TV shows?
So one of my favorite rom-com tropes is best friends to lovers, which is clear why I wrote this book. But so that means some of my favorites have that same trope. I'd say for books, I love Anna and the French Kiss. I also love Ella Enchanted, which I think of as a rom-com. It's kind of like a fantasy fairy tale, but it's definitely kind of got the same tropes. And then movies, When Harry Met Sally is one of my favorites. It just feels, the dialogue just feels so realistic, and I love the older couples that they interview. Although I've heard that those are actually actors, which kind of ruins it a bit because it makes it, you want them to be real, but I don't know. There's just so many good ones.
I always laugh when I hear anything having to do with Nora Ephron because my grandmother went to school with her.
Really?
They did not get along, apparently.
Oh, some gossip.
My next one was actually like, what are your favorite like romance tropes besides friends to lovers? Are there any others that you're particularly
So that one's my favorite. I also love fake dating, of course. So I'm working on my second book right now, which it's interesting to start talking about The Best Laid Plans again, just because for the last few months I've just been like zoned in on my second book.
Not gonna lie, I have a question about that later.
But that book is a fake dating hate to love, so that's been a fun one, kind of a new trope for me to work on.
Yeah, and then lastly, who are some of your favorite fictional couples?
Oh, well, definitely the ones from what I just mentioned. Who else do I love? Ron and Hermione was always a big one for me. Oh man. Ooh, you know what I loved was Moulin Rouge. That was like a movie for me in middle school and high school. So Christian and Satine was like devastating to my 12-year-old heart.
Have you read Where Dreams Descend yet?
No, I'm really excited for that one though.
For those of you who want to, that's another YA book that comes out in August, so next month.
That's definitely on my list.
Yeah. There's so many great ones. Okay, and then what are some romance tropes that you don't like that are a no-go for you?
Anything that can like sort of be construed as abusive, I'm not into. Where there's like weird power dynamics. Sometimes it's okay, but anything where like actually I feel like this was like going around Twitter recently of like the bad boy trope.
Oh,
There was a discussion of both sides of this. I'm not into that. I like kind, respectful, romantic leads that are nice to each other.
no Edward Cullen for you.
No. Yeah, no stalking me while I'm asleep. I'm not really into that either.
Okay. Okay, so with that, do you want to do a little quick reading to give everyone a taste of the awesome
Sure.
reading?
So I was trying to decide where to read. I was wondering if this was spoilery because it's in the middle, but then I realized it's literally the scene that I explained of what the book is about. So then it's not spoilery. So we are, Keely has met up with James Dean and she's lied to him and told him that she's a virgin when she, opposite. Lied to him and said that she isn't a virgin when she is. And so now she has sent her friend Andrew a cryptic text message saying that she needs his help with something. Yes.
Yeah.
So now they're at a diner. So I'm guessing you have something embarrassing to ask me, he says, because you sent me that cryptic text and now you're acting like a weirdo. He takes a sip of water. Thank God we're already friends because I probably would have dropped you by now if I didn't know you so well. You've been a complete disaster all morning. He smiles to show me he isn't serious. I told you to forget that text. The waitress comes back with our coffees and sets them down on the table in front of us. Andrew pulls his coffee toward him and grabs 3 packets of sugar, tearing them open and pouring them in one by one. I wrinkle my nose at him, taking a sip of my own coffee. I didn't mean to send it. He frowns. You can trust me, Collins. Remember what you told me before? You're here for my weird shit? Well, I'm here for your weird shit too. You're my little weirdo. I know. I pick up one of the empty sugar packets in front of him and begin tearing the paper into little pieces, something to keep me distracted. We all need someone to talk to about embarrassing things. He takes the sugar packet out of my hands and pushes the little pile of paper away from me. Remember that time you slept over in first grade and when we woke up in the morning you had wet the bed? He grins. That was you, I say, laughing despite myself. You were the one that wet the bed. But we can't prove that, can we? He raises his eyebrows. Anyway, this can't be worse than that. It's worse, I say glumly. He takes a sip of his coffee and then his eyes light up. Okay, what about the time in 7th grade when you got your, he pauses, tripping over the word, period at school and you had to borrow my sweatshirt for the rest of the day? I remember the horror of that day clearly. I stood up at the end of math class and noticed a small red stain on the chair. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room and I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I wasn't friends with the girls yet and didn't have anyone to ask but Andrew. I held my backpack awkwardly over my butt and pulled him to the side of the room, my face burning as I coughed out the words. He let me tie his sweatshirt around my waist for the rest of the day, and we never once brought it up again. It was one of the first times I felt a strange kind of distance from him, when I began to realize I was a girl and he was a boy, and our experiences were going to branch off into different directions. I can't believe you're bringing that up, I say, feeling my face heat. I'm just saying, this can't be more embarrassing than that. He takes another sip of his coffee and then sets the mug down on the table and leans back in the booth, waiting for me to speak. I don't. Okay, I'll ask you questions then, he says, leaning forward again and clasping his hands in front of him on the table. Is this similar to the Great Period incident of 7th grade? I shake my head no. Okay, what else is embarrassing? Does this have to do with bodily functions, bathrooms, toilets? I laugh, shaking my head again. No toilets. Thank God, he thinks for a moment. Does this have to do with Hannah? Is that why you can't ask her? I sigh, shaking my head again. I can't ask her because she's a girl. I mean, I could, I guess, but I'm straight. Is this a sex question? He leans forward in the booth. That's why you can't stop giggling. It's because you're 5 years old. Hey, I say, but tap my nose anyway. He's getting too close, and I'm not sure I want to keep playing the game. If I ask him, there's no turning back. There's no guarantee that things won't be ruined between us forever. This is worse than the Great Period incident of 7th grade. Much worse. I just want some advice, I say finally. And you seem to know what you're doing. I mean, I've seen you hooking up with a lot of girls, obviously, and so you must be able to help me out a little. The waitress comes back with our food, and I jump as she interrupts. She sets our pancakes down, and I force a smile. Careful, the plates are hot, she says in a cheery voice as she walks away. Enjoy! I pick up my fork and begin to tap it against the table, not touching my breakfast. Andrew takes a big bite of his pancakes. Apparently, nothing is awkward enough to dampen his hunger. I take a deep breath and the words tumble out of me. I want to have sex with James Dean at prom, but I don't know what I'm doing. He's clearly pretty experienced, like he's in college, right? So he doesn't know I'm a virgin, but I don't know if I really want him to know I'm a virgin because that might scare him away. I want him to like me, and I'm just nervous because I have absolutely no clue how to, I trail off. And you could probably help me. It was Hannah's idea, so it's totally fine if you're not into it. Don't feel pressured. He swallows his pancakes. Okay, I can give you some tips, I guess. He runs a hand over his forehead, scrunching his eyebrows with his thumb and pointer finger, then looks back at me, taking another bite of pancakes. Why would I feel pressured? Oh, I say, realizing I haven't actually gotten to the crux of it. Haven't actually said the part that's the most important. Oh, that's not what I meant. I clear my throat again and take a sip of coffee, but it's tepid and bitter. I force myself to swallow and then push my mug aside. I lower my voice to a whisper, glancing behind me at the table of stoner sophomores. They're not paying attention to us. Collins, he asks. Keeley? I choke out a whisper. I'm just sick of being a virgin, and I trust you. You would never spread rumors about me or anything like that. I just thought maybe we could, I cough a little, maybe we could have sex. Like, you could teach me. We could practice. He makes a choking sound and knocks over his mug of coffee with his elbow. It rushes across the table toward me, liquid spilling into my lap. I jump up, grabbing for a pile of napkins. Sorry, he jumps up too out of the booth before realizing the coffee isn't rushing in his direction. He sits back down, then stands up again, reaching for some napkins to help. I'm sorry, I say. Forget I said it, okay? It's so humiliating. I can't believe I worked myself up, convinced myself to ask him. How could I have possibly thought it was a good idea? I turn to leave, gathering up my backpack. No, hey, he says softly. Sit back down. I feel tears stinging the corner of my eyes, and I try to hold them back, already embarrassed enough as it is. Keeley, he says. And I sit back down in the booth, my eyes fixed on the pile of soiled napkins on the table. He's silent for a moment, thinking, and then his voice comes out low and strained. We haven't, he pauses. You're so important to me, and this isn't you're important to me too, I say. That's the whole point. He pushes his pancakes away, putting his napkins down on top of his plate. I don't like you like I like Dean, so there's no pressure, I continue. If you like Dean, why don't you just sleep with him? Everyone says the first time hurts when you're a girl, I say, my voice wavering. I'd rather just get that over with. It's different for guys. Your first time is, well, you don't have to worry about pain or bleeding or getting called a slut. You saw what happened to Danielle. At least she can handle it. I'd die if someone started writing things about me. I tap the fork against the table. And you think Dean would do that? No, I sigh. I don't know, not really. But being a virgin makes things complicated. I just want to be able to sleep with him without the added significance. I don't want it to have to mean everything. I set the fork down, but it doesn't matter. I'm sorry I ruined everything. I dig through my backpack and find my wallet, setting a $20 bill down on the table. Breakfast is on me today, okay? I'll see you at school. No, wait, he says, holding out an arm to stop me. The expression on his face is unreadable. His eyes are crinkled at the corners under his glasses, and his mouth is pressed into a firm line. Ah, fuck it, he says, sighing and running a hand through his hair. Okay, sure.
This is a great scene. You read it so well. That actually kind of leads me into my next question, which is, sex is something that, young people are still taught is taboo even today in 2020. And, they're even taught that it's kind of something to be ashamed about talking about. And this book is very sex positive, and it deals with the issue in a very respectful and relatable way for those who are likely to need it most. So why did you want to write this story? And was it always something that you saw directed at, or even in its earliest iterations, was it always directed at a YA audience?
Yeah, so this, I feel like I had seen so much media about guys trying to lose their virginity, like American Pie, but there were some other things. And I just wanted more of that from the female perspective. I think luckily now there is a lot more of this coming out in the last few years, which is really exciting. But when I started writing it, there wasn't that much. And so I wanted to write a story that felt kind of accurate to my own experiences in high school and like reflected a lot of the anxieties that I had around it. And then just wanted to demonstrate, sex positive to me is like, going your own path, and not being ashamed of like what you want, but also not being ashamed of what others want, and kind of showing that, whatever path people pick is the right path. So if you want to have sex with a lot of people, that's great. If you want to have sex with just like one special person, that's great. If you want to wait for marriage, that's great. Just kind of showing like, just let everybody live and do their own thing and stop judging people for their choices.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like one of my favorite things is, the first time I read this book, it was an ARC and it didn't have it, but was the dedication. It just like, just tells you right away, like, the path that this book is going to take, which for those who don't know, it says to anyone who isn't ready or feels like they're falling behind, remember it's not a race. And I think that last sentence is so important.
Yeah. And I put that dedication in there specifically actually because I was nervous. So in my book, there's some characters who, in the first half of the book say some really problematic things about sex. And I wanted readers to know, like, I agree these things that they're saying are problematic. And through the course of the book, we will learn why, and they'll like grow from these experiences and like won't think this way anymore. And so I just didn't want readers to read those things. Like in the beginning, Danielle says something about like being a virgin in college is like having a disease, which is awful. And I wanted people to know, like, no, that is not the message I'm trying to say. Let's get through it and we'll learn why these things are wrong.
Yeah. And it definitely came across, even both times, reading it once without the dedication and once with. So I want to shift a little bit to the writing process. So what did the writing process for this book look like? And, how long did it take you to draft it? Did you plot or pants it? Like, what did, your submission process look like?
Yeah. So I'm definitely a huge pantser. I always kind of know the shape the book is going to take. Like, I know what theme I'm writing, and like, I know like a character arc. So I always know where I'm trying to end up, but the steps along the way, I don't plan out. So I just kind of like to start writing and just see where the characters take me. Cause usually whatever I come up with as I'm writing, if I get into that weird like flow state headspace, is a lot more interesting than whatever I would come up with outlining. So that's like, if there's ever any like plot twists or things, that's the characters usually just tell me that in the scene. But this book specifically actually started out as a screenplay that I wrote in college.
I'm gonna read that.
Yeah. Well, it is. So it's very, very different. All the characters, besides Andrew and Keely, the characters, all the side characters and everything are different. And so then I decided I wanted to turn it into a book and kind of scrapped everything, started over with the same kind of plot, but even like the plot beats and stuff are different. So yeah, I'd say if we count the screenplay, then it took a lot more years, but I'd say since starting the book, probably like 4 years ago.
Yeah. And that's kind of a perfect segue into my next question, which is, you studied film in college, from what I understand, like me, and your characters, Keely and Dean work at a movie rental store, and there are lots of references to films, which I always love. So do you think screenwriting and being a screenwriter and, having like been, it ingrained in you the 3-act structure, the 110 pages, no more, like, do you think being a screenwriter and has like stylistically influenced you when it comes to writing novels?
I definitely think so. I'd say the reason that I can pants so well without needing to plot is just because the 3-act structure is so ingrained in my head that like I just instinctively know what plot beats need to happen as I'm writing. But I would say film has definitely helped me in terms of dialogue. Also because I've grown up doing theater my whole life, so I've read.
Yeah, you're an amazing singer.
Oh, thank you. So I've read a ton of scripts for film and for theater, and I think especially when I'm writing like a really emotionally charged scene, I like to just completely just do dialogue only, almost like I'm doing like an improv activity. So I'll just like write, if someone's in a fight or something, like I'll just write the fight really, really quickly without even thinking about what I'm saying, as if it's improv. And then I go back in and add the description and stuff.
Yeah, that's really good. Like writing advice too.
Yeah, it's fun.
The dialogue in here is great. Like just like sitting there laughing. Like,
But yeah, something with, so in college I studied, um, uh, we had to pick a focus, and my focus was horror films, specifically Hitchcock. So that's why there are all of those really annoying Hitchcock puns in there, because I was like,
No, I think it's great.
gotta put my knowledge in there.
Yeah, no, the fall semester I took Screen and Story, which is sort of like just script analysis and like all learning about all the stuff having to do with the script, not writing it. I mean, we did a coverage assignment, but we did a lot of Hitchcock. And then that winter I did a screenwriting class in Los Angeles. We went to the Paramount lot, and all the stories they were telling me about Hitchcock, about him like almost like poisoning someone with like gas in like a car, and like how his office was like specifically placed like right below the head of the studio because they didn't trust him and they need to keep an eye on him. Like Hitchcock is just
there's some stories there.
Do you have a favorite Hitchcock film?
I really liked Strangers on a Train. I honestly haven't watched, I watched all of them so many times in college, and now it's been a while. I should get a bunch of them and do a rewatch, see if I have different opinions now.
Yeah, no, I loved The Birds, because The Birds and like everyone else in class didn't seem to like it. I thought it was fun, but I will say like it was dark outside, and like I walked home, like a bird like fluttered near me. I was like,
so I've actually never seen The Birds, and it was filmed very near to where I live. So I should get on that. Although maybe that'll be scary because it'll all look familiar.
Oh. Yeah. So who is your favorite character in The Best Laid Plans? And was your overall favorite character the one that was your favorite to write, or was that one maybe the hardest to write?
So I would say, I think, so Keely is the most similar character to who I am. She's more introverted than I am. I actually really liked going to parties in high school and trying to like be friendly with people, whereas she's a little bit more reserved. But in terms of like all of like her thought process about things and her anxieties, those are all kind of straight out of who I was in high school. So of course I've got a lot of love for her, but then I really think my favorite characters to write were Danielle and Ava, for different ways. Just like Danielle's kind of just like bitchy attitude is a lot of fun. And then Ava just always kind of like excitedly saying random things. And, of course, her love of theater is straight from my love of theater. So, yeah. And of course, their whole dynamic, it was really fun also.
Yeah. No, it's fun, especially like the Ava kind of being like agreeing automatically with everything, Danielle says, and kind of like the tag along, but not to tag along. I mean, it's just the dynamic between the two of them is so much fun. So going a little bit back to the sort of, I guess, the publishing process, like what did querying this book look like? Finding an editor, because I found, I think, a great home at Penguin. Like it just, I don't know, like it fits so well. And like, being a bookseller and seeing all these books that sort of, they come through and the imprints that they're in, it's just like having this one, in Layover Land and some of those other ones. With Razor Bell, it's just like a great imprint.
Yeah, so I queried this for about 6 months, which felt like forever while it was happening. Yeah. But now looking back on it, and reading blog posts and things, I'm like, oh, okay, that was totally normal and actually quite quick. But the interesting story with that is, I don't know do you know what Pitch Wars is?
I do know.
Yeah. So real quick, so Pitch Wars is a competition where you have, somebody helps you edit your book a little bit, you put up a quick pitch, and then agents will read through and offer. So I applied for Pitch Wars in 2018, I think it was 2018, while I had been querying, and I had I'd gotten rejections, and I had one outstanding query, and I was like, well, okay, I'll apply to Pitch Wars, like I probably won't hear from this agent. But then I started, like, that agent, I just really, really wanted her, and I felt like it was going to be a really good fit. And so then I started kind of regretting that I had applied, because I was like, oh, well, what if I get in and then I have to tell her, I have to retract my query. So I didn't get into Pitch Wars, and almost was relieved, because I still had that one.
You should have gotten in, because the book is so good.
Well, thank you.
You know?
But it was literally like, I want to say a week later that I heard back from this agent and she offered me rep. So it's one of those things where like everything happens for a reason. And I always, now when Pitch Wars rolls around every year, I always like to tweet that out to everybody. Like, don't worry, it'll still work out for you. And then getting my editor was really, really quick. We went on submission and I got my deal. I think it was like 2 days later. Like it was just like a really, really quick preempt, which was very exciting. I didn't have time to I didn't even really know what submission was. It was just kind of like, oh, we're going to email some people now and then I have a deal. So I know that's not how it usually
I'm not
works.
surprised though. So I want to know, you talked about it a little bit at the beginning. You, for the longest time that I've talked to you, be like, I have a second book coming out, but I can't talk about it yet. And I was like, and now it's finally been announced. So can you talk a little bit about your next book?
Yes, so I'm still terrible at pitching this, but I'll try my best. So it's called Heartbreakers and Fakers. It comes out.
Such a great title.
Yeah. It comes out June 2021, and it's a Sierra. I'm like trying to. It's a girl who ends up cheating on her boyfriend with her best friend's boyfriend, and just causing like a whole lot of mess. And the best friend's boyfriend and her are like enemies. They don't like each other. And for reasons, they basically end up pretending that they're in love as a way to make their mistakes seem like a little bit less bad, to try to get their friends to forgive them. And it's about, learning from your mistakes, growing, becoming a better person, all that.
That sounds so good. So I can't wait to read that. I'll read anything you write, but great. So you also have these like great titles like Heartbreakers and Fakers, Best Laid Plans. Like, how do you come up with these titles? Like they're so great.
So I love titles, I think, and I hear a lot of people hate coming up with titles. I think for me, it's honestly because I'm a songwriter and titles are just big little snippets of lyrics kind of. The fun fact is Best Laid Plans was not the original title of that book. It started out as Practice Makes Perfect, is what I got my agent with. And then when we sold it, it was called The Fool's Guide to Fooling Around. And then my editor was afraid that guide titles had been done a lot. And so we wanted to come up with something different. So I sent her a list of like 30 random title ideas that I had, and Best Laid Plans was on that list, and that's the one that they picked. And then same thing with Heartbreakers and Fakers. I think I made a list of like 40 titles that were just all had the word like fake, pretend, random things in them, and that one I got from a Taylor Swift lyric. So
oh, great! Who doesn't love a good Taylor Swift song? Mm-hmm. Great. So are you finding, I think you said you're still doing work on it now. Are you finding that it's harder to write Heartbreakers and Fakers than the Best Laid Plans, or do you finding it's the other way around?
Oh, it's a lot harder. It's the dreaded book 2 syndrome that you've, I'm sure, heard of, while doubled with being in a pandemic. So it's just I feel like there's just so much more pressure on your second book, and you have such a short time to do it. Whereas, the Best Laid Plans I had as long as I wanted. And just, getting into a creative headspace right now is tough, especially for something that's like supposed to be lighthearted. It's definitely a little bit darker than I initially anticipated it being, just because of my headspace. It's been tough.
Sorry. So one thing, you were on a panel with her before, but that Jenny Lee said was that in writing, one of the issues that she hit when at writing her second book, which she said was a lot harder as well, was the pandemic, and then trying to decide, like, do we just keep going as if it never happened, or do we just include it because there's all these teenagers partying and doing all this crazy stuff that you would never be doing during a pandemic. So are you writing Heartbreakers and Fakers as if it never happened, or is there a little bit of
So
pandemic in it?
no, so Heartbreakers and Bakers takes place last year, I would say, in a non-pandemic world. There's a big chunk of the book that takes place at Disneyland, so I I couldn't in good conscience have that during the pandemic because
Yeah.
everybody should stay home.
Definitely. So with so both Heartbreakers and Fakers and The Best Laid Plans are both rom-coms, are both contemporaries, and refer to contemporary books as, for those watching, as, more realistic fiction, like nothing with really magical elements or science fiction, just, your ordinary, not ordinary, but nothing supernatural, I guess you could say. So you're clearly like very good at writing rom-coms, but do you ever see yourself writing any, fantasy or paranormal romance, or do you think that, contemporary romantic comedies are where you're going to stay?
I definitely have interest in fantasy or like fairy tale. Like I told you earlier, Ella Enchanted was one of the pivotal books for me growing up. And so I have lots of like kind of that style fairy tale ideas. I feel like everything that I write will always have a element of romance in it because kind of, I read widely across so many genres, but like most of the things I read have some sort of romantic element in them. And also, with a focus on horror in college, I think it would be fun to write something like very creepy. Maybe a creepy fairy tale would be kind of a good combo.
Yeah. Have you read like The Hazelwood or?
Yeah, something like that would be cool.
Yeah, I saw that they're publishing the Tales from the Hinterland, and I was like,
ooh,
fun. It has like fun illustrations in it. And then, but going off that, do you think you'll always want to write for teens, or do you think you might want to write for a middle grade audience or for an adult audience?
Yeah, I could see myself doing both of those things. I think what I really like about YA specifically with romance is because I like that it's the first time any of this has ever happened. Usually, like I like writing about someone's first time. Obviously, if this book is about sex, but like someone's first love. I feel like the emotions are so heightened when it's your first heartbreak, it's your first everything, and I just love the character arcs you can get with. Oh my God, what is that called? When you're growing up and you're
Coming of age.
Coming of age, thank you. Those stories. So that's just a really exciting place for me to write. But I also really love the tone of middle grade. It's just, some of that very fun, whimsical narration. And then eventually I could see myself doing an adult romance too.
Yeah. I would like love both of those. But yeah, I heard that I think we call them Wib Broca has an adult romance novel coming out, and I'm like, it looks so good.
They have several books coming out. I feel like how quickly could you guys write? I'm so impressed.
I know. Good too. So you mentioned middle grade and having Ella Enchanted being a big influence on you. The movie was more of the influence on me because I was a kid back when Blockbuster was still open, and my mom getting tired of me, buying or picking out all the Barbie movies and just please pick something else and something that looks a little bit more like you. So that was my first introduction to Ella Enchanted. But are there other middle grade stories or even ones that you've read recently that have had an impact on you?
So the funny thing about the Ella Enchanted movie is that I've since grown to love it. But when that came out, I was
sure it's nothing
so
like
mad at it.
Nothing like the book.
I was like, this is not the tone of the book. Let's see what else. I mean, my favorite book series of all time is His Dark Materials, The Golden Compass, Amber Spy or Subtle Knife, Amber Spyglass, which are technically middle grade, but also adult. I don't know. It's a weird age category that doesn't really exist anymore. But I reread those, at least once a year. More recently, though, I have not read very much middle grade, and I would love some recommendations because I definitely want to, explore that a little bit more.
I'll give you some. So I'm sure you know Chris Colfer from Glee.
From Glee, yeah, okay.
He's an amazing writer. he wrote this. It's called The Land of Stories. It's a 6-book series, and then last year the first book and like the spin-off series, which is more like a prequel series, came out. But the first one came out when I was in 6th grade, so I was 11, and then the last book came out. I was doing, a summer program at a college, like going into my senior year of high school when the 6th book came out, and like they never got old. They were all just like so good and got better and better as they went along. But it's about these like 2 twins who have the storybook and end up like falling into the storybook. And it turns out like basically all the fairy tale characters from every single tale exist in this world. And the way that he makes the creative choices he makes, like all the princesses married Prince Charming. They kind of all marry the same person. So what if they were all brothers? And then like, well, like why did Jack climb the beanstalk? Well, maybe he was looking for Goldilocks. Like it's so much fun, and they're so great. And you would never know that it was like a famous actor that had written them.
Yeah, I had no idea that he did that. That's cool.
Yeah, they're great. And then I also loved, everyone seems to love this series, is the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. They're so much fun, and the 3rd book is getting pushed and pushed and pushed, but hopefully it's finally coming out in the fall.
Yeah, I should check that out. You know what I actually haven't read that I have been meaning to read is Percy Jackson.
Oh, well,
I know that's a classic one.
Yeah, they did a musical of Percy Jackson, and it was really good. Like when I say that it was 500 times better than the movie, like, and it was a faithful adaptation. It was really good. Like I just like disappointed I can't find the soundtrack anywhere, but it was so much fun.
Oh, was it like a joke music, or it was like a serious?
There were parts of it that were like funny, like because the tone of the books are funny, but like it was serious. Like there were some of the songs were funny. Like there's this like camp counselor who's like the god Dionysus, who's like his punishment is being like the camp counselor there, and so there's he does a song about it being another miserable day, and it was great because like it fits his character. So like there are funny parts, but it's like a well-crafted musical, and like it was on like Broadway.
I'll look that up because I love musicals. I was just thinking of I don't know if you knew a Harry Potter musical that Darren Criss did. Oh, okay. So this was a big thing. It was when Darren Criss was in college, he wrote a Harry Potter musical, and it's kind of like a joke Harry Potter musical, but it got very big on the internet, and I was obsessed with it at one point.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
There's YouTube videos of it. It's worth a watch for sure.
Definitely, I'm sure. So this is, I'm kind of just coming up with this style, but would you love a Best Laid Plans musical? And like, are there any like, since you love titles, are there any like titles of songs that like
there'd definitely be like a big pizza number where the dancers would come out dressed as pizzas and do like one of these in the back. I would love to write, that's another one of my life dreams, is to write a musical. I wrote a musical when I was 8, but it was not very good, so I'd like to write a good one.
So do you just, like I should ask, does pizza find its way into Heartbreakers and Fakers?
No, actually, I feel like I should put it in there. I should make that my brand. Heartbreakers and Fakers food item, I would say, is ice cream, because she works at an ice cream shop.
Oh, fun.
So.
Are there any like unique flavors that you had to like make up?
No, but there is actually, and I put this in there just as basically to tease my editor, but so my editor told me that she used to work at Cold Stone Creamery, and that the bananas that they would have to use apparently would get like rotten and frozen, and it was like this really disgusting thing that they would all make jokes about. And so she told me that she can't eat bananas anymore. And so as I was writing, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna make them have like rotten frozen bananas, and just so that they're all gonna hate. She put a little frowny face when she got to that part.
I'm wondering what they're gonna do with the ARC packages. Came in these like awesome pizza boxes. You do like,
I know, that was so creative. That was very, very cool.
It's great. We always like love seeing that, and like especially when they see it, like sometimes like on the days that I'm not at the store, like they'll just like open all the packages, and then they'll just like end up like all the books will end up in a pile on the shelf. But when they come in, like some of them will come addressed to me, but whenever they know a YA book is like in a special package, they'll like leave it for me, because they're just like, we just wanted you to see like the extent of this. Like, so like, it's always a way to make sure that I see it.
That was so amazing.
It was so cool. But I think my next question then would be, since you're such great at writing romance and, you know, having and writing great, like writing couples that you root for. Whereas like sometimes like in books, you're kind of just like you reading, you're like kind of like, I don't know if I ship this, but do you have any advice for budding romance writers and for particularly creating, relationships that people are going to be on board with or that the reader will be on board with?
Yeah, so I feel like the best couples in a romance have to each have something that they're missing, and that together they like complement, like the thing that one person isn't good at, the other person's good at, and vice versa, and that they have to complement each other so that they're stronger together than they are apart. So I think that's really important when you're coming up with like characterization, to make sure that both of them have a flaw and that they can help each other fix that flaw. Um, and then for me, it's all about, I just really, really like romantic tension. So all of my stuff is very slow burn. I never let anybody kiss until like 80% of the way in. But I like to give I just like to tease everybody. So I like to give a lot of like moments where you really, really want them to kiss and it like almost happens, and then you snatch it away from them so that you could keep reading and you're like really excited when it finally does happen. So you'll get a lot of that in the second book too, where you're like, oh.
I know. I got that in this one too. Have you read Sarah J. Maas's books?
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah. Her newest one in particular is just like
Did you do that? That's gonna make me want to read it.
You have to read it. It's so amazing. But like it, and then like it's just like the slowest of slow burn romances, and like then at like the end you're just like, she teases you just so much, like,
yeah.
And like
my issue is like I need a slow burn romance where if I'm reading something and the couple kisses at like 20% in, I'm like, oh, okay, well.
The first kiss isn't like, it's like 800 pages. The first kiss does not happen until like 600.
Yeah, that's what I like. Or
it's like
I'm okay. Here's the thing: this is why all of my stuff is always very like high concept too. Is that like I'm okay if there's a kiss earlier as long as neither person has acknowledged that they like each other. So it's like, oh, there's some, they're fake dating, so there's some reason why they can't acknowledge their feelings. Then it's good.
Yeah. Great. So you also kind of like torturing us readers a little bit.
It's good torture though.
No, it's good torture. Is it like, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but like the big sort of scene with Keely and Andrew like happens like halfway through like the result of the conversation that you read about, maybe even a little more than halfway through. But
yeah, really push things out there.
Yeah. So speaking of just books in general, what have you been reading lately? Have you read any good books during this pandemic and, kind of being pushed back inside again? And any of them that you recommend?
Yeah, so I've been doing mostly audiobooks because for some reason I've been having a really hard time. I just have a hard time with ebooks in general, and that's mostly what I've been getting from the library. So audiobooks have been much easier. But I am currently reading It Sounded Better in My Head by Nina Kentwood.
Yeah.
I love it so much. If you haven't read it yet, you definitely should. It's a similar kind of vibes, I would say, to Best Laid Plans, where it's like an awkward girl who like overthinks everything. But I feel like she just like dug into my soul and just like can read my mind of like who I was in high school. It's just every thought that this character has, I'm like, I thought that exact same thing. So I really love that. I just started You Should See Me in a Crown, which like so far I'm still on like the 10th page, so don't have much to say yet, but yeah.
I've heard so many great things about it. I want to listen to the audiobook, hopefully in a few days. But I've heard like incredible things about that one as well. And I think both It Sounded Better in My Head and You Should See Me in a Crown are books that readers who particularly love the Best Laid Plans would love. Or there's some other like backlist books that you're just like, this is like this is the kind of thing that when before you wrote the Best Laid Plans, like you're like, this is the kind of thing that I want to write.
So what did I read that? Oh, I loved Firsts by Lori. What's her last name?
Mm.
Can't remember. I feel really bad that it starts with an L. But so Firsts was a book that I loved. It's very similar in tone. And I actually, when I was querying, I used it as a comp title, and I messaged the author and said like, hey, just want to let you know that's a big inspiration. I'm using your book as a comp title. So that was very cool to then, get a deal. And then later we were chatting like, yay.
Awesome.
But what else? I really liked this book called, the British title is called The Lobster or Lobsters, and the US title is called A Totally Awkward True Love Story, maybe.
Sounds familiar.
But thank you. First by Lori Elizabeth Flynn. It's very good. But yeah, so that was another one where, it's a awkward girl going to a party and she wants to have sex. Just, I really liked books that were kind of upfront about sexuality and talk about really honest things. Lobsters talks about like her going to her first appointment to get waxed and like how she gets all of this like razor burn and she's really uncomfortable and like embarrassed and just like stuff like that that's so honest. And because in movies I feel like you always just get this like really polished version of sex and romance, and I like that in a lot of these books you can really dig into the anxieties and the awkwardness.
Yeah, I just read Chasing Lucky by Jen Bennett. Her
I
books
love
are,
her.
yeah, her books are also like very, all of her books I think are very sex positive and very feminist. And in this one there was like just like dialogue about like how it was very awkward and just like little like in betweens like no not there like, like it was really great. And yeah, it was so refreshing to see. So I mean I know we talked a little bit about Where Dreams Descend, but what are some other upcoming books, even adult ones too, that haven't come out yet that you're really excited for, even ones that come out next year, because they've started like releasing the covers galore for
Yeah, so I'm very excited for Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, which I think comes out next week. So I don't have to wait very long for that, by Rachel Lynn Solomon.
yeah.
Yeah, I've just heard really, really good things about it. What else? I don't know. They're slipping my mind right now. But that's the one that I just keep being like, give me a copy. Oh, actually, I thought of one more. Hot British Boyfriend.
Oh, I saw the cover is so cute.
Yes. Sounds amazing. And then also Happily Ever Afters by Elise. I forget her last name. She has the same agent as me. She's very sweet. And that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Does that have to do with royalty at all, or is it just the title?
It's just the title. It's about a creative writing student who lives out some of her writing ideas and finds romance.
Ooh, that sounds so much fun. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like obsessed with anything having to do with royalty. Like I loved like Rachel Hawkins's, I mean, Her Royal Highness was like amazing. Prince Charming was fun, but like Her Royal Highness was just like.
Yeah, it was so cute. Yeah. Have you read The Royal We?
Yes, and I read the sequel too.
Okay, so I loved The Royal We. I just bought The Heir Affair. I haven't started it yet, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And it's funny now that like I reread The Royal We. I had like an e-arc of The Heir Affair, and I started reading it. I'm like, no, I need to reread this. It's been way too long because it came out when I was like a freshman in high school, and then so I was rereading and like having so much fun with it because of like she goes to Cornell, and I'm like, yes, go back.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love this book so much. And yeah, I want more royalty books in general. Like I just like that aren't like historical or like that aren't fantasy. It's just like.
Did you read American Royals?
Oh yeah, and I read Majesty too.
Yeah, I loved that one too.
Yeah, I loved her first series too. The 1000th Floor was a lot of fun as well. It's funny, like her, like she was another author I met like at the one year that BookCon was in Chicago. It was like the one year that I went. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And are there any sort of contemporary books that that have sort of come out in the past year though that you've read and loved as well?
I really loved What I Like About You by Marissa Cantor.
Yeah.
That was like a one sitting book for me. What else? The Lucky Ones by Liz Lawson.
Oh yeah, that was so
Um,
good.
made me cry a lot. um,
Just read A Breath Too Late. That made me like
oh, I haven't read that one yet, and I know it's gonna destroy me.
yeah, it destroyed me.
I don't know. I have an issue where I read a ton of books and then I immediately forget the second I've like somebody will be like, "What are you reading like right now?" And I'm like, ah.
Yeah, I'm like what's it called that it comes out? I'm also really excited for the Anna Kay sequel.
Mhm.
Like, have you read Anna Kay yet? Or
Not yet. I need to. The cover of that is so beautiful. I actually saw it. It's one of those covers that like it's not as it does the online picture of it doesn't do it
yeah,
justice. I was always like, oh, that's really pretty. And then I went to Barnes and Noble for the first time a few weeks ago and I saw it in real life and was
yeah,
like,
no, it's really pretty.
oh.
I'm partial to it as well. um, and then so I know we could. This is going a little bit back, but I mean, I know being in the middle of a pandemic and being a debut author, I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of things that you weren't able to do when this book came out that that you wanted to do. So what did your launch month look like, and what is it looking like now that you, for the bit of time that you were able to be a little bit out of lockdown, and sort of what can we as booksellers and as readers do to make it a little bit better?
Yeah, so my launch was right in the middle of when everything was extremely locked down, and everyone was
Yeah.
still like very scared of leaving their house. So that was a bummer because I had planned, I was going to have a launch party at a local bookstore, and my family and my editor were going to fly in and had, a bunch of friends coming. So it was going to be a very special thing.
Mhm.
And so to go from that to then being alone in my house felt very kind of lackluster. It almost kind of didn't feel like that anything happened because it was available for pre-order before, so it was like you can order this online and it's just going to take a couple weeks to get to you, versus now it's published so you can order it online and it'll take like a couple days to get to you. There was just not any sort of a difference. But my friends did a really good job of making the day feel special. A couple different friends sent me pizzas, which was a very cute idea. And I had, some wine by myself. We had a Zoom party, a few different Zoom parties with different groups of friends. So it ended up being really nice and fun. But yeah, it was weird, you know, 3 months later getting to see it in the bookstore for the first time. It was like a very long wait.
Yeah, I think I like for especially for the people that were on my panel for Digital Distance Book Fest, when I finally got, like, I took pictures of by that
Yeah.
point, like, I realized you'd already seen like in the bookstore. I was like taking pictures of because I know one of the things you were saying is just like wanting to be able to like walk into a Barnes and Noble and be able to see your book there.
Mhm. Yeah, in terms of like what people can do is I'm still at that point where I get very excited if somebody sees it on a shelf in a bookstore and they send me a picture, because it has been like kind of a rare
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, like
And
a lot of
also
the
just
bookstores. And
what were you gonna say?
oh, sorry, I thought someone else said something. And the like even now, like the only bookstores that are like really open for browsing though are Barnes and Noble. So I just go there because I want to be around books, and they have like it on the place of honor, like the hot new releases, like the table. Like some of them are just like on the shelf, but like your book is like on the table. Like
Yeah, that was
like the
actually so
sign.
when I went to Barnes and Noble for the first time last week, I didn't see that table, and I was like, I thought it was supposed to be on a table based on a picture someone sent me, and then they didn't have it, and so I was really sad. And then I walked up right to the exit, and then I saw it, so it ended up being there.
Yeah, no, and it's so much fun. And let's see, we have a couple minutes left. So I'm gonna hold up the book. Like this cover is just great. Like the
Oh, I
illustration,
love it
like the
so
bright
much.
yellow. How much input did you have on this? I mean, some authors will tell us that they were really involved in the process. A couple days ago, Roseanne Brown told us that she said she absolutely did not want a girl in a dress on the cover of her book, and they said, okay, there's going to be a girl in a dress on your book. So what kind of input did you have?
So I've been really lucky. I've had a lot of input, in terms of title and also in terms of cover. we went back and forth on, we had a bunch of different cover designs that at first none of us really liked. They hired a new illustrator. But every step of the way, they asked my input and then like listened to what I had to say, which has been great. And I really love the final result. I love how much the yellow stands
no,
out.
it's so great.
But yeah, I've heard horror.
Like I'm like a wash in darkness. And it's
yeah, it's glowing. I think I'm going to do a cover reveal for my second book pretty soon. So
you have to say, does it also, like, is it the same illustrator or?
Yeah, so it kind of, it goes nicely with it.
With them. Like the Woodbroker books. Nicely. I always love that when they go hand in hand.
And they match.
Yeah. Like it's like, it's such a first world problem. Like one of my pet peeves is always when they will change the cover of the book, like the paperback, and then they'll match the newest, like the hardcover, the next hardcover in the series with the paperback. And then like, it's like, then you have like one outlier that like doesn't match.
Yep, I understand. I also hate when there's movie covers.
Yeah.
When they put the actors.
I could deal with it if it was like my very favorite actor on the cover, but otherwise like
a graphic design with pretty colors is my.
Yeah, I love the illustrated covers have come back. And go. Have you read The Roommate by Rosie Danon?
No, and I really want to. It
is so good. I think I was telling you about it, but because it was like,
yeah. So I should have included that on my books I'm excited about.
Yeah, it comes out in September. I'm so excited to like get my hands on like a physical copy of it, because like I had such a bad headache afterwards, because I've literally read 2 ebooks in my entire life. And they were during the pandemic. One was like a really like early, like a Word document of Majesty. And then the other one was The Roommate. And like, so I'm always just like, if I'm not really excited.
I can't do ebooks. It just
can't either.
brain doesn't like
I had like such a bad headache afterwards, but I was kind of just like delirious. But it was so much fun. I highly like it. It's good. It's also another one of my favorite books of the year. There's only like at most there's only 20 books on my favorites of the year, but that and The Best Laid Plans.
Well, I'm proud to be on your list. It's exciting.
You know, it's so much fun. Both of them are so much fun, and like I know like the world is still kind of dark right now, and so I mean this one especially. It's also just like bright yellow. Like just like looking at it makes you feel a lot less like dark. Like even like behind me, like it just like everything just looks dark, and then you hold this up and it's like so nice and bright.
No, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. Like if my shelves were not already like stuffed full of books, and I would face it out, but I've had to like face my books in because
you're
run out of room. Okay, well I think it's 7. This will be up. I think I'm creating a YouTube channel for the store. So this will go up. I know a lot of people, and like I know like in a couple of minutes I will get an email saying like after I've ended the Zoom saying that your attendees are waiting, start the Zoom. Just happened for like every single event so far this week. But yeah, Cameron Lund's book, The Best Laid Plans, is out now. We should have it in the store unless we might be sold out, but you can get it. We can order it for you. You can go to buffalostreetbooks.com and have it delivered either right to your doorstep or come on into the store during our limited social distancing browsing hours. And please pick it up. It is so much fun. It is such a good book. And another reminder that this is one of the events during our week of YA. So tune in tomorrow for our event with Shveta Akrar. Very different book, also very good, but a fantasy. And then another reminder that if you want to purchase all 7 books featured during this week, you can get a 15% discount.
You should, because it's a great lineup of books.
Yeah, it's a very great lineup, but especially by this one. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And this is so much fun having like a whole rom-com conversation.
All right. And thank you for everyone that
love the book already.
Oh, thank you so much. All right.